Please press bell icon to subscribe to my channel Seema Gautam for more videos. Hello, I'm back with the new chapter, that is Mahatma Gandhi and national movements. In this part 1, we are going to learn about Gandhiji, his ideology, his struggle, methods, and movements started and led by him. First of all, we'll discuss few points about Gandhiji. Gandhiji returned from South Africa to India in 1950. That he had led a peaceful agitation against the discrimination meted out to Indians and had emerged as a respected leader. It was in South Africa that he developed his brand of satyagraha. In India, he first used this tool against the British government at Champaran in Bihar. Gandhiji was born in 1869 at Porbandar in the Kathiawar district of Gujarat. He went to England in 1888 to study law. From 1893 to 1940, he practiced law in South Africa. He witnessed racial discrimination in South Africa and soon became the leader of a struggle against racist authorities in the country. He formed the National Indian Congress to fight against the racist policies of South African government. It was here that the unique technique of satyagraha evolved. Gandhiji's satyagraha was based on truth and non-violence. Gandhiji returned to India in January 1915 and made an extensive tour of country in the next 3 years. In 1917 and 1918, he was involved in 3 significant struggles in Champaran, that is in Bihar, Ahmedabad, and in Kheda in Gujarat. We'll learn one by one about each. So we'll go ahead first. Champaran Satyagraha. The first civil disobedience movement by Gandhiji in freedom struggle and preceded by the Rajkumar Shukla and indigo cultivators. Gandhiji went to Champaran in Bihar to investigate the conditions of the farmers there. The farmers were suffering under heavy taxes and exploitative system. They were forced to grow indigo by British planters under the Tintikanta system. Gandhiji arrived in Champaran to investigate the matter but was not permitted by the British authorities to do so. He was asked to leave the place but he refused. He was able to gather support from the farmers and masses when he appeared in court in responses to summons. Almost 2,000 locals accompanied him, and the case against him was dropped and he was allowed to conduct the inquiry. After peaceful protest against the planters and the landlords led by Gandhiji, the government agreed to abolish the exploitative Tinkatia system. The peasants also received a part of money extracted from them as compensation. Champaran struggle is called the first experiment on satyagraha by Gandhiji, and later Ahmedabad Mills strike and the Kheda satyagraha occurred. It was during this time that Gandhiji was given the name Bapu and Mahatma by the people. Now we'll learn about the Kheda satyagraha. I'll discuss some of the points over here, which started in 1918. So 1918 was a year failed crops in Kheda districts of Gujarat due to droughts. As per law, the farmers were entitled to remission if their produce was less than a quarter of the normal output. But the government refused any remission from paying land revenues and all. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, under Gandhiji's guidance, led the farmers in the protest against the collection of taxes in the wake of the famine. People from all castes and region and religions of the district lent their support to the movement. The protest was peaceful and people showed remarkable courage even in the face of the adversities like confiscations of the personal properties and arrest. Finally, the authorities gave in and gave some concessions to the farmers. We'll move ahead to learn about the Ahmedabad mill strikes. Gandhiji used satyagraha and hunger strikes for the first time during an industrial dispute between the owners and workers of a cotton mill in Ahmedabad. The owners wanted to withdraw the plague bonus to the workers while the workers were demanding a hike of 35% in their wages. During the peaceful strike led by Gandhiji, he underwent a hunger strike. The Ahmedabad mill strike was successful and the workers were granted the wage hike they wanted. In all these movements, Gandhiji was able to involve the masses, including farmers, artisans, and even the so-called lower castes. This was a change from the previous movements when the participation was limited to the upper and the middle classes. Now we'll go ahead and discuss about the non-cooperation movement. So the Congress supported the British government during the First World War. India contributed significantly to the war by supplying man and materials in the hope that the self-government would be granted to them by British government by the end of the war. However, after the Britain won the First World War, it passed many acts and laws such as Royalty Act, which aimed at suppressing the Indian national movement. The Congress thus decided to launch the non-cooperation movement. Now we will discuss the causes of the non-cooperation movement in detail. So the non-cooperation movement was a result of many poverty-stricken and inimical policies of British government against India. The non-cooperation movement was a result of many incidents that took place in 1919 and previous years. The Sultan of Turkey was regarded as a caliph or the religious head of the Muslims. Most of the Muslim sacred places were located within the Turkish Empire. In the First World War, Britain was fighting against Turkey. This led to a wave of indignation among the Indian Muslims. The Muslims population in India started the Khilafat movement under the leadership of Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. They formulated 3-point programs which included that the Ottoman Caliph should retain his empire. The Caliph should be left with adequate territories to enable him to defend the Islamic faith, and the Arab lands should remain under the Arabic rule. To Gandhi, the Khilafat movement offered him an opportunity to unite the Hindus and the Muslims. He advised the Khilafat committee to adopt a policy of non-cooperation with the government. Gandhiji has used this time really as an opportunity. So the Khilafat non-cooperation movement started on 31st August 1920. We'll move ahead and learn about the Royalty Act. As I said, many of the policies and acts started by the British. So we'll go ahead and learn about the Royalty Act. To suppress the rising national sentiments in the country, the government passed the Royalty Act, which empowered it to imprison any person without trial. The act gave the government two following powers, like to arrest a person without any warrant, to try a person in seclusion, to suspend the right of habeas corpus. Gandhiji launched a movement against the unjust act. Shops were closed. Workers of the railway workshop went on a strike. Rallies protesting against this act were organized in various cities. Alarmed by the large participation of the people in the movement, and the government arrested prominent leaders from Amritsar, and Gandhiji was banned from entering Delhi. On 10th April 1919, the police fired a peaceful processions. People retaliated by attacking banks and railway stations and all. Jallianwala Massacre, also called Massacre of Amritsar, was an incident on April 13, 1919, in which British troops fired on a large crowd of unarmed Indians on an open space known as Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar in Punjab. The Jallianwala Bagh site in Amritsar is now a national monument. We'll learn ahead about this particular day. A large crowd assembled at Jallianwala Bagh protesting against the arrest of some of their leaders who criticized the government for passing the Royalty Act. General Dyer blocked the exit of the Bagh and fired on the pictorial representation of Bagh massacre, Jallianwala Bagh unarmed crowd. This resulted in the death of about thousands of people. The killing of innocent people at the Jallianwala Bagh shocked the entire nation. People in many North Indian towns protested against the brutal killings at Jallianwala Bagh. The government brutally suppressed these protests. It killed several hundred people and wounded many hundreds more. It marked a turning point in India's modern history in that it left a permanent scar on Indo-British relations and was the precursor to Mahatma Gandhi's full commitment to the cause of Indian nationalism and independence from Britain. Here we learn objectives of the non-cooperation movement to get the better idea about it. The non-cooperation movement was a political campaign launched on 4th September 1920 by Mahatma Gandhi to have Indians revoke their cooperation from the British government, with the aim of inducing the British to grant self-governance and full independence, which is called Purna Swaraj, to India. The non-cooperation movement emphasized on the use of Swadeshi and boycott programs, about which we are going to learn further. The program of this movement involved boycott of government and the educational institutions, law courts, legislatures, the emphasis on the use of charkha, which is a spinning wheel, khadi, that is handspun cloth, campaign of jail bharo, fill the jails by the Congress volunteers. Some of these were like boycott government-run schools, colleges and courts, to boycott foreign goods, to resign from nominated seats in the local bodies, to surrender titles and honorary offices. Shops selling foreign goods and liquors were picketed. People enthusiastically participated in the non-cooperation movement to popularize the use of Swadeshi and Khadi cloth, to establish national schools and colleges in India as an alternative to government schools and colleges, to unify the Hindus and the Muslims, and to work for the emancipations and upliftment of women. The Congress boycotted the elections to the legislatures. Many eminent lawyers such as Dr. Rajendra Prasad and Motilal Nehru gave up their practice. Many eminent Indian personalities such as Ravindranath Tagore renounced their titles and awards. People started spinning clothes by using the charkha. When the Prince of Wales visited in India in 1921, people boycotted his visit. The Jamia Millia Islamia was established as a national university, and people contributed generously to finance the movement. In Kheda, Gujarat, many peasants organized non-violent campaigns against the high land revenues. This was the impact. Or we can say these were the actually, you are learning about the non-cooperation programs, what were happening there. Now we'll learn about the repression of the movement. The government severely suppressed the movement. The colonial government took brutal steps to repress the civil disobedient movement, and the government began arresting the Congress leader one by one. This led to violent clashes in many places. A frightened government responded with a policy of brutal repression. Processions and the public meetings were banned. The Khilafat and the many volunteer organizations under the Congress were declared illegal. Unfortunately, the whole movement was appropriately called off on February 12, 1922, at Gandhiji's insistence, following the news of Chauri Chaura incident. Suspensions of the non-cooperation movement by Gandhiji because of the incident which occurred at Chauri Chaura in Uttar Pradesh. A procession of about 3,000 people marched to the Chauri Chaura police stations after being fired upon. The mob turned violent and set the police station on fire, killing 22 policemen. This incident shocked Gandhiji as he wanted to gain freedom by following the methods of non-violence. He withdrew the movement on 12 February 1922. He asked the congressmen to focus on constructive activities such as working for the removal of the untouchability, Hindu-Muslim unity, etc. Gandhiji's decision to suspend the movement was criticized by several leaders such as Motilal Nehru, Lala Lajpat Rai, and S.C. Bose. We'll be back with part 2 soon. Take care and be safe.